Hey guys, my name is James Walsh, and you are listening to the Wrestling Epicenter here on YouTube. I want to thank you for finding us. Please do me a favor and click that subscribe button and the notifications bell. And if you get the chance on this video, click the like button. If you do, it'll turn blue. Check it out. Also, check out WrestlingEpicenter.com for all this great content available in MP3 format, our online store that'll keep us going free and clear, daily news updates, as well as all the information from the history of professional wrestling you could possibly ever want. Check out WrestlingEpicenter.com online right now. Without any delay, let's get to your interview here on the Wrestling Epicenter.
Hello. Hi, this is James Walsh calling on behalf of WrestlingEpicenter.com for Larry Zbyszko.
Hey, James, how you doing?
Hi, Larry. It's great to talk to you again. This is you might not know it, but this is probably the third time we've had you on, and it's always great to have you on. And let me introduce you to my third co-host that you'll have met of mine. They don't seem to last long. I guess I'm not easy to get along with. Let me introduce you to Patrick Kelly.
Hello, hey, Patrick, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm just kind of relaxing tonight.
Alrighty. Okay.
For you guys.
Yeah, sorry we're a few minutes late. We were just getting everything lined up.
That's all right. Yeah, no, I remember the name of the show. I've been doing a bunch of them.
Yep,
It's been a while.
It's been a
Where
while.
Where you guys at?
I'm in Mesa, Arizona, where it was 113 today.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yes. Every time you're driving, you think the road in front of me is flooded, but it's actually the heat coming off the road that makes it look like a lake. It's horrible.
Oh, God. Yeah, it's beautiful in Florida. It was only like 90, you know.
Oh, Florida? Oh, yeah. But you got the humidity there.
A little bit, but I'd rather have the humidity.
Probably so. Alrighty, and Patrick's in Maryland. So.
Yeah, we had some thunderstorms today.
Maryland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the state that's shaped like a gun. I just realized that the other day.
The state that's shaped like a gun. I never thought of that. Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty, and we're going to get started. Is now a good time, Larry?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. By the way, I really did enjoy the book. It's a riot to read.
Oh yeah, did you really enjoy it?
I did, absolutely.
I mean, everybody that's read it really likes it. There's only the only criticism I think people are bitching about that it wasn't like long enough or something.
Yeah, I did think that at first, that it wasn't long enough, and you fit a lot in there, so.
Well, yeah, I just didn't want to dwell on stuff. I didn't get, I think some people just like to read personal dirt, and I didn't really put any personal dirt in, because I didn't want to take away from the wrestling story.
Yep. Alrighty, and Pat, you get ready to get started?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, let's get started in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of the Interactive Interview at WrestlingEpicenter.com. I am Patrick Kelly with my co-host James Walsh, and we are being joined by a very special guest, the living legend Larry Zbyszko. How you doing today, Larry?
Well, I'm doing good, hanging out in Larry Land and kind of relaxing today. Tomorrow I play golf.
That's
Where is Larry Land?
Well, it's kind of wherever I go. Right now, it's all around the Orlando fun area.
That's very cool.
Golf heaven here, brother.
I've heard about that. The funny thing is, every once in a while, when you're driving around Arizona, there's a mall here called the Superstition Springs Mall, and right next to it, there's a golf course, and you always see this Elvis impersonator that some people know as the Honky Tonk Man out there playing golf. So it's always...
Oh, yeah, that's right. He's out there somewhere, isn't he?
Yeah, every once in a while you'll see him out there playing golf. It's always a fun experience.
Does he play golf dressed like Elvis?
God, I hope not. No, I've never seen him. It's just, yeah, you certainly know Honky Tonk Man when you see him, though.
Oh, yeah, you can't miss those sideburns.
No, you can't. Alrighty, well, Larry Zbyszko has a brand new book out, and it's called Adventures in Larryland, and it is one of the more interesting reads of recent wrestling books. And Larry, why don't you tell us a little bit about it? How's the response been?
We know the response has been great. Everybody loves it. Apparently, people think it's a lot more funny than I thought when I wrote it. just kind of, I mean, I wrote it myself. There's no ghostwriters. I wrote it word for word. So, you know, when you read the book, I guess you get to know me because, you know, I wrote it, put a sense of humor in it, but and I never read a wrestling book, so I had no idea what they were about, other than, you know, from what I heard. So I tried to make this one like a dream come true story about a kid that wanted to be like his hero, and kind of with the help of destiny, after 30 wild and crazy years in this business, became known the same as his hero. So
now,
I always liked a happy ending.
Absolutely. Now, in reading this book, and one of the first things you mention in the book is the need for kids to have heroes to look up to. And when you watch wrestling today, sometimes you wonder if heroes is really what they should be seeing on TV right now, if they really should be idolizing some of these guys. What do you think? Do you think that their wrestlers can still be heroes?
Well, I think they could be, and I definitely think they should be, because you know, to be a good professional wrestler, kind of like what I wrote in part of the book, you have to be in everything. You have to be your own writer and choreographer, and athlete and writer, and I mean, you have to be a sharp guy to really make it somewhere. Unfortunately, even some of the good talent that you see on TV a lot, it's not their fault. It's the fault of the promotion, you know, that has them do all these stupid things that kind of take away from it. So, yeah, I think they should be heroes, and there's no reason they can't be. It's really up to the promotion.
Now, off the air, you mentioned that a lot of people are finding the book more funny than you intended it to be, with all the stories. And I have this videotape, which I cherish. It's something that you did back in 2002 with Road Warrior Hawk and Sherry Martel and Terry Taylor. You guys were all just sitting around telling stories. And when it came to your turn to talk, you said you were glad that you weren't one of the ones who did all these stupid things, but you're glad you were there to see it happen around you. And basically, that seems to be what the book is. Would you say that that's still a true statement?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was different in the wrestling business than most of the guys. Most of the guys are really out there. I mean, you have to be kind of crazy to be a professional wrestler. I was probably one of the most uncrazy of the crazy group, and I loved being in the business. And but from within the business, I loved watching the show. But I really couldn't be part of the show or hang out with a lot of these guys. I mean, I was the guy that went to bed early, got up and played golf, and never went to the bar. You know, I don't drink, and I don't do what a lot of these guys did. So I was kind of the guy in there watching the show, just being amused as hell. And but that's why I'm still kind of like, you know, living and looking good and feeling good, and still have some money. So. You know, but it was a wild and crazy show to watch from within.
From within.
Who was the craziest person you dealt with? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, God. There was a few of them. I mean, there was a guy, Lou Albano was crazy. Mm-hmm. Mad Dog Vachon was clinically insane. I mean, here's a guy that was, you know, flying in an airplane, you know, sitting in the back with 5 or 6 guys in a King Air, and as they're up, you know, 12,000 feet flying along, Mad Dog opens the door to the airplane.
I've heard he did that a few times. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm talking insane. You know, some of these guys, they were totally nuts. Now, who would do that? You know, but they were a different breed of men. Some of these guys. And so some were insane in a funny way, and some were insane in a tough way, and some were insane in a nasty way.
Now, one of the insane things in your book is how you used to like to rib the guys by taking the plane down in a nosedive. And for those who don't know that, you're a pilot, and when you're flying your plane, you'd take it down in a nosedive just to see their reactions. Now, who would you say had the best reaction, and did anybody attempt to kill you when they got off the plane?
Well, no, I lucked out. I tell you, I think Tony Atlas was probably the guy that freaked out the most under normal, you know, joking conditions. I put one story in there that really scared the hell out of me and the passengers, where Pete Sanchez was screaming. I mean, screaming. But that was under severe conditions. That was no joke. Oh,
boy. Oh, man. Well, Larry, we got a lot to talk about today, and we're just going to touch on some of those things. But before we get there, just something that popped into my head because you were talking about watching the show from the inside and all the things about the show compared to then and now. The ESPN Classic, I'm sure you know about it by now, is now showing some of the old AWA events, some of which featured you. What do you think of them showing that, and have you actually watched to see this?
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I was watching it some months ago, just about every night because I was on there. God, I forgot some of the stuff that I did. And actually, there's still more. Now that I watched that, I'm dying to see more. There's still a bunch they haven't shown.
Yeah, I think they're up to 1988 now.
Yeah, they had a boom 98, but there was still a whole bunch from 85 or 86, whatever it was, that they haven't shown yet.
Now,
that I remember doing with me and De Beers and me and Snuka and some other stuff. But I enjoyed watching it. In fact, I let my hair grow longer again. I saw that.
Does it make you feel younger, having longer hair? Does it make you look younger, take a few years off?
I sure hope so. I'm trying.
Well, I think we all are trying the best we can.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I wanted to ask you about, the last match I saw you have was the match you had with Eric Young at Bound for Glory. And one thing that you always seem to talk about was the art of stalling in wrestling. And that match seemed to have a little bit of that, but the crowd reacted very well to that match. Do you think that that's somewhat of a lost art in wrestling?
I'm sorry, is it kind of a what?
The art of stalling during the match to help work the crowd up and kind of, work their reactions. Do you think that's somewhat of a lost art in wrestling?
Oh, it's definitely a lost. It was a lost art when I invented it 20 years ago. But it cracks me up that people even. I guess it's cool. I invented something, the art of stalling. It wasn't really stalling. It kind of gives it the wrong impression. But what it was an addition of a character that really, made the people's emotions get into the match. If the bell would have rang and I would have started flopping around, my match would have been just like everybody else's match. I mean, it got so ridiculous today that by the time the match is over, no one even knows really who wrestled. There's just bodies flying through the air and then they're gone.
Now, that actually brings up a good comment. We had Missy Hyatt on. She's actually a good friend of the site, and whether you like Missy, hate Missy, or whatever you think of Missy's past, she actually came out with one of the better comments I've heard in doing the show, and that was she watched an indie show back in Florida back in like 2005, and she was managing one of the wrestlers, and they came out to the ring, and she said within the first 2 minutes she saw 10 moves that should have been finishing moves. Would you
see, even Missy knows?
Would you agree with that statement?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's kind of true. I mean, it's just like watching a movie. If you went to see Jurassic Park, and the big finish with the dinosaurs eating each other and the good guys escaping happened at the first 3 minutes, what the hell would you do for the next hour and a half? Sit there. So. A wrestling match is basically the same thing. It's a story of two guys competing. So most people don't remember the first 10 minutes anyway.
Exactly. Good point. Now, a lot of fans are really getting more. I don't know. There seems like every once in a while there tries to be this quote-unquote revolution where the Northeastern fans like to claim that they created something with the whole Extreme thing 10 years ago or whatever it was, and now that's the whole back to the purism thing now with the company called Ring of Honor.
So they're back to the purism now?
That's what they're claiming, the purity or whatever it's called. They're saying that now they want, pure wrestling with no weapons and all that and really long matches. And do you think it can go back? Do you think that people can now have the attention span to sit through a good hour-long match?
Well, take a combination of things. It all depends on the match. People will get into anything if you can give them drama, if you can give them excitement, and you can get their emotions involved in it. People can sit there for 10 minutes and go berserk, or they can sit there for an hour and become engulfed in it. But to have an hour-long, match, you're going to have guys that are know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's a little more complicated than that. But I mean, anything can be done. And I think, from the statement you made, it doesn't really. That's really kind of hard to explain, but when they say they're going back to a purist style and they're getting rid of weapons and all this violent, ridiculous nonsense with chairs and barbed wire and fluorescent bulbs, what that means is because this stupid nonsense has been going on for 10 years and these people aren't making any money, and the wrestling is stale, and the ratings are down, and the buy rates are down, that maybe they finally realized what they've been doing for the last 10 years was really stupid.
I totally agree. I mean, what does it take to really hit somebody in the head with a fluorescent light bulb and try to claim that there's an art to it?
Yeah, why the idiot just stands there and waits for you to hit him with a fluorescent light bulb? I mean,
they probably looked at their medical bills and were like, "Oh, need to cut this out."
You would think so.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it just kind of got, way out of control. But it was, I think people are just realizing now, okay, after 10 years, that didn't work. That's what's boring. There's no drama in it. It's just like insane craziness that might have got some attention some years ago, because when it first came around, people went, what in the hell is this? But it never was a success. Paulie Dangerously with his ECW, all he did was go bankrupt and not pay the guys.
Absolutely.
Who were all hurt. I mean, it was really a crime.
Exactly. So I take it you're never a big fan of the ECW style, then?
Oh, I think it's a joke.
Absolutely. Well, let me ask you about this question here. We have, early in the book, you talk about your early days, and you were teamed up with some really big guys. Haystacks Calhoun, who was my mother's favorite wrestler, and Andre the Giant, who was one of my favorites of all time. And everybody has an Andre story, but the question I have to ask you is, did you ever challenge Andre to a drinking contest?
No, I don't drink.
Oh, okay.
I'm about the only wrestler that doesn't drink, and I know. Maybe Bockwinkel.
I just had Bockwinkel on the other day. It was a real honor talking to him. He's doing great. I'm glad to hear that.
I don't think there's anybody that could beat Andre in a drinking contest.
No, there isn't. I tell you, I remember one night Andre had a drinking contest with Chris Taylor, and he was a huge man, the old Olympic wrestler that was a wrestler for a while. You guys remember Chris Taylor?
Yep, absolutely, yep.
And they had a drinking contest, and it was ridiculous. It was like Taylor drank 360 beers, and Andre drank 400 and some beers, and finally Chris Taylor passes out. And then Andre gets another case of beer and a bottle of Crown Royal and goes up to his room. The sad part about it was, Andre was, me and Andre were pretty close for a while. But the last years of Andre's life, when he knew that his giant disease was getting the best of him, really, I think became, because he was such a cool guy, I think he really became depressed and just kind of drank himself to an earlier death.
You don't think he did himself any favors then?
No, well, he knew he was dying, and I think he just kind of lost it.
Did you ever see that weird, and this is kind of really off topic and really out of left field, did you ever see that movie Billy Crystal did that he said he based on Andre the Giant's life called My Giant?
No.
Well, if you have the opportunity, pass it up.
Okay.
It was not a great movie.
He was a cool guy.
It was not a great movie. Well, we got to ask you some more questions about the book. And like I said, it was a really entertaining read. And one thing that actually had me on the floor laughing was the story about a man you mentioned previously, Colonel De Beers, and Kerry Von Erich. And basically, you tell this story. And one thing I wanted to ask you about that story is, where were you when this insanity was happening in the ring and in the arena? Or were you just watching through the curtain?
I was in the dressing room.
And was the dressing room basically laughing their asses off about that?
Well, most of the guys found out about it after it happened. I was in the dressing room and kind of going in and out, and then I was watching it because I was one of the few guys that knew about Kerry's condition. And De Beers was getting some good heat, so I was watching that match. And most of the guys were in the dressing room and found out about it later, because we all went berserk too. But I don't want to give too many spoilers away if anybody's listening.
Right. Exactly.
But it was a unique moment. I mean, after so many, thousands of matches you see, you rarely see something like that happen. And And the crowd's reaction was priceless. It was just like everybody's mouth was open. There was dead silence. It was one of those things that just didn't compute, like you thought you were in the Twilight Zone or something.
Now, I want to ask you about this. You mentioned that in the book about being offered the position or the role of In the Hills Have Eyes. And we've seen several wrestlers come along, like The Rock, who's really tearing up Hollywood right now, and Hulk Hogan, who made some moderately successful movies. Do you think that if you had done that movie, Larry Zbyszko might have been the first version of The Rock and really caught on in Hollywood?
You know what? It's an interesting question because you never know. You never know. All I know about Wes Craven is he always liked to use guys he used before in previous movies and that he worked with before. And because he became so big, you never know. I mean, I could have easily had a foot in the door if I would have kept my mouth shut. But it was just such a ridiculous thing at the time because of, it was his first movie. He was a nobody. There was no money in it. It sounded stupid, and a bunch of the guys get offers now and then, and most of them are nonsense. So you really don't take it serious when something like that happens. But I wish I would have. I got another offer to do a movie some years after that. It wasn't that kind of an outrageous story, but I got a call from Jerry Reed, the country western singer.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. This must have been maybe in the later 80s, 88 or so. I think I was down in the Carolinas. I got a call from Jerry Reed, so I called him back, and they were planning to do the last Smokey and the Bandit movie. And Jackie Gleason has recently died. And Jerry Reed, he loved me. He thought I was like his favorite wrestling guy, and he wanted me to play the part of the antagonistic sheriff, the one that Jackie Gleason played. Can you imagine that? I fell off the couch. I took off in a little plane and flew out and met Jerry at one of his little concerts out in the country, and we got along good. But the weird part was Burt Reynolds at this time, it was the time of his life when Burt hit the skids and was like, in rehab and ruined his life with the Halcyons and wound up getting divorced from so-and-so and was broken, and they never made the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But that would have been a classic, too.
Absolutely. Now, do you still have the itch to get involved in acting, or are you past that now?
Well, I really don't have any itch to. If something came along, I'd probably do it just for the hell of it, because I don't do all that much now. I go off during the week and do appearances on the weekends here and there, and once in a blue moon, still put on the boots, if the situation's right. I've been lucky, and I feel like I'm 25. I look like I'm 21. What the hell? But, I wouldn't mind doing something just to do it. It would be fun.
Now, I will say this, though. A friend of mine, I was watching Impact with a friend of mine while you were still with TNA, and the comment he made is like, oh, dude, this Larry Zbyszko guy, he should be in movies, because he's pretty charismatic.
Well, that's nice to hear.
Yeah.
Well,
and he was just amazed that you had such a great personality. But I also wanted to ask you, you were with WCW during the time that they were beating the WWF in the ratings. Do you think that Vince McMahon can ever be beat by another wrestling promoter now?
Sure. I mean, anything's possible. TNA, has a chance. They're going to have to do a couple more, giant steps forward. But they have a, company behind them that has a bunch of money, and they got a 2-hour show. And you never know. I mean, there's a possibility. The secret is you just have to put somebody in charge of the wrestling end that knows what they're doing. Vince's product isn't that good. He's got a great production. I mean, he's got a big production and it looks great.
Mm-hmm.
But all his stock took a bump after WrestleMania because the WrestleMania numbers were way down for the buy rate and his ratings are slipping. And his product is stale and stupid. So he can be beat. It wouldn't be that hard.
Absolutely, and I just think that if we had a company like WCW with somebody like Ted Turner behind it that put the right people in charge, I think we'd be talking about a completely different wrestling game right now than we're talking about at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a new big wrestling, if TNA can take it the next couple of levels up, they would have a good chance, but they'd have to, make some adjustments.
Any suggestion on what those adjustments might be?
No. Not on the air.
All right, that's for them. That's for maybe something you could tell them behind the scenes if they pay you the right amount of money.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the way to look at it.
They're actually selling your book on their website.
Oh, yeah. Well, I talked to the TNA people, and they got the book up on the website, and I'm going to do some appearances at some of their pay-per-views and house shows.
Oh, cool.
So I can autograph the book for the fans, while we're there and stuff. Probably start in July here. Because the book's just kind of coming out now. It should be hitting the stores any day, and the feedback's starting to come in, and so far so good.
Absolutely. Well, I got to tell you, one of the things that I just read today and posted on the website was an article written by somebody who probably shouldn't be writing articles because what he wrote was so vague, but it sounded like he met you at the Cauliflower Alley Club recently. Did you actually attend that event?
No, I wasn't at the Cauliflower Alley Club. What he said may not be true.
What he said might not be true and nonsensical then. All basically he was talking about was how great your book was, but he mentioned the Cauliflower Alley Club, so I guess that wasn't the case. I'll have to nix that later on. Alrighty, Larry. Well, there's a lot of questions here about wrestling, and obviously we have such little time. We don't want to take up too much of your time, but one of the things that is being asked by one of our forum members, and I did want to ask because he's been a good poster for our site, and he said, how did you come up with the idea for Scott Hall's WCW debut? And I'm not sure if you want to touch on that or not.
Well, I don't want to give too much away because I wrote about that in the book.
Ah.
And basically, what the invasion angle was for the New World Order was an old idea that we had in the AWA, which basically came from the Ganyas.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't work out when the AWA was in its last days and tried to do something by invading WCW. But by the time the New World Order popped up, that was the idea that Bischoff and Greg Gagne, who was in the office, made work, and had enough money to do it at the time. And when they brought Scott Hall in, their original idea was, because when the AWA was going to invade WCW, they wanted me to wrestle Sting. So I laid out the programming, which would have been great. And I just kind of did it backwards and did it with Scott Hall. But their idea was basically boring and crummy. So, I'm the one that had Scott Hall come in and just bust, into the ring during a match and set up the whole New World Order scenario of them busted in here and busted in the control room and busted in the broadcast booth and made it look like what it should be, an invasion, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Now, are you surprised that when Vince sued about that Turner's lawyers didn't fight it probably harder than they should have? I believe that WWE's excuse was saying, they're pretending to be WWE employees.
Oh, you mean like when they left McMahon?
Yeah, after they had left.
Well, you know what? I was involved in kind of the wrestling and I programmed, but I really don't know what's going on with the legal end.
So no adjustments had to be made on the creative end to accommodate. Okay. Alrighty. Well, Larry, it's always great having you on the program. I think I mentioned this to you last time, but you were actually my second interview back in late 2002, and you really gave me the confidence to keep doing this, and I got the show on AM radio. I got a co-host on the show that was actually in the business. For a long period of time, I just really enjoyed doing this thing. I had Hulk Hogan on, I had Ric Flair on, and really it started with you, and I wanted to thank you for being so polite to me on my second interview, which I really sucked at, and giving me the confidence to make me feel like I could do this and keep on doing it, because I really enjoy doing it, and I really do owe you a debt of gratitude for helping me out.
Well, thank you very much. You sound like you're doing a good job, so keep up the good work.
Alrighty, and Adventures in Larryland should be hitting stores soon. You can pick it up at TNAWrestling.com as well as Amazon.com. They both have those available, and it's really an excellent read. Did you want to sign off with maybe anything else to say about the book?
Well, I'm kind of proud of it. Part of me feels bad because the only negative feedback I'm getting is that, some people say it was too short. But I guess that means if you enjoy reading something, you just don't want to stop. But we'll see what happens. I didn't get into the personal stuff because I want it to be the wrestling story. And we'll see. We might write another book.
I was just going to say that if people were saying it's too short, all that means is that maybe there could be a volume 2.
Oh, believe me, after 35 years, there could easily be a volume 2.
Well, I did want to throw one last question at you. And it kind of goes along with the perspective of wrestling. I think I had you on last year just after Sherry had passed, but right before we had the horrible incident, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, with a man's name that people don't even want to quote anymore. What is your perspective on the way that the media pounced all over the wrestling business after the whole murder-suicide with Chris Benoit?
Well, that's what the media does. You know, they attack everybody, I guess, for the actions of, you know. But I really believe that there should be some attention paid to a couple things. You know, one is the ridiculous abuse of steroids that the big league wrestling is, you know, putting the pressure on these guys to use, because if you don't have a certain look, and then, you know, you're not going to get a big contract, and that's a responsibility of the upper echelon. And I think it's gotten way out of hand. I've always been a big, what would you say, I've always been against the use of steroids. It's not necessary. And even the physical beatings, like you talked about, you know, the ECW kind of nonsense. I mean, you know, for these guys to take the physical abuse and getting bashed in the head with metal chairs and diving into cement is ludicrous. You know, the fans don't want to see it. Wrestling's stale. And so you know, but between all the physical abuse they're doing for no reason, and they're winding up taking too many drugs and steroids to try to compensate for it. It's just not necessary. It's sad.
It really is. I mean, even if you watch just the different flows in shows where, you know, I have a 7-year-old, and we can sit down and watch, obviously, a tape, considering I don't let him stay up till 1 a.m. to watch it on ESPN Classic, but I can sit down and show him, you know, an episode of AWA, and he'll sit down and watch that, and he'll you know, he'll get to see the action right away, wrestling, and a lot of it is squash matches, but you know what? He gets to see action, whereas you can't have the kids watch the show today, because who's going to sit through a 25-minute conversation with two guys standing next to each other who hate each other and nobody hits each other?
Well, that's kind of the sad thing. You can't watch it with your family. My kids, I mean, after WCW, you know, went under or got canceled, my kids weren't allowed. I mean, wrestling was not allowed in my house because the only thing that was on was Vince, and it was nothing but sexual raunchiness. And then this ECW, you know, violent thing popped up. And I wouldn't let my kids watch that. And wrestling is making a big mistake, too, because they're so into these ridiculous demographics of, you know, the 18 to 25-year-old. And all they're giving the audience is boobs and butts and stupid skits and nonsense. But the 18 and 25-year-olds are all clicking over to the Ultimate Fight. You know, it's just silly. Mm. So I'm with you. I'm with you, brother.
Alrighty. Well, again, Patrick, did you want to say anything before we...
No, I'm pretty good. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Zbyszko. This was a blast.
All right, guys. Well, have a good one. I'm glad you enjoyed the book.
I did enjoy the book very much. And, Larry, thank you so much. Anytime you have anything else to promote, please give us a call. We'd love to have you on again.
Well, thanks, guys.
Thank you, sir. You have a great day.
Hey guys, it's James Walsh here from the Wrestling Epicenter. I'd like to thank you for finding us here on YouTube. If you get the opportunity, please click that subscribe button, as well as the notifications bell. This way, anytime that we upload any new content or new-to-you content from our archives dating back to 2002, you'll be notified. You can check out what we're up to. Please also check out www.wrestlingepicenter.com for all your wrestling news and information needs, as well as check out our store to keep us running free and clear. Without any further delay, let's get to why you're here. Thanks for checking out Wrestling Epicenter on YouTube.